Okay. Hello everybody. All English speakers, just wait. We're gonna have to do the intro in Spanish. Hola a todos, bienvenidos. ¿Qué tal? Soy Pablo de la GEMA, ya se la saben. La GEMA Phantasy, el podcast de la GEMA. Transmitiendo en vivo desde Ciudad de México, aunque hoy es lunes. Para los que nos siguen usualmente podrán darse cuenta que usualmente transmitimos los miércoles en la noche. Ya hablamos con gente de Smash, pero el día de hoy vamos a tener algo diferente para ustedes, algo nuevo, algo coqueto. Les va a gustar, yo espero que les guste. Estamos poniendo hace un rato y se va a poner guapo. Hoy no vamos a hablar de Smash, así que si vienen a ver algo de Smash, disculpen homies, aunque sí vamos a discutir un poco de ello, así vaya muy superficialmente lo vamos a tocar, obviamente pues somos un canal que streama Smash, estamos de ello, pero vamos a hablar de otro juego. ¿Qué juego? Este juego, Phantasy Star Online. Si tuviste un GameCube cuando eras morro, a lo mejor tus papás te tuvieron que comprar una memory card para este juego porque estaba muy pesado en la memory, pero estaba muy pesado también en diversión. Este juego está muy bueno. La serie en general Fantasy también tiene RPGs, Phantasy Star 1, 2, 3, 4, Phantasy Star Universe, Phantasy Star Portable, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2, que es este, y Phantasy Star Online Episode 3, Card Revolution, que es un juego de cartas. El día de hoy, para hablar un poco de Phantasy Star Online, va a estar con nosotros Joe Flores de Capsule Entertainment. Es un equipo de NorCal, de California del Norte. Vamos a hablar un poco de PSO, ver qué tal, y así. Y aparte es el primer episodio de podcast en inglés, así que ya se saben homies, esperen esto próximamente, vamos a estar afinando detalles de horarios y todo ello, pero ahora sí ya vamos a empezar en inglés. Cámara. Okay, so hi everybody, everyone from Capsule that's watching the stream, hosting it there, hello, greetings everyone, I'm Pablo from the GEMA, we're casting live from Mexico City. This is our podcast where we talk about Smash, interview some players, do some events. There's my cat over there. So it's basically, just talking, just chilling with people. But now we're branching out. We're doing stuff other than Smash, and now we're doing Phantasy Online because it's a cool game community, and we really like the game. And we thought we should help support it and maybe get some more people playing it because it's dope as F. So first up, we're gonna talk about some Phantasy Online episode 1 and 2, and then we're gonna talk about episode 3, which is a card game. Joe Froze from Capsule Entertainment from NorCal is going to join me to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of their endeavors with Card Rebel Weekly, the podcast they had themselves, talking about the updates to episode 3. And, just chilling. He also has a dope episode 3 card collection in physical, so it's going to be dope checking out. So I'm going to call him now and see what happens. So yeah, in case you guys don't know, the GEMA, the gem from Veracruz, now in Mexico City, we do events, stuff like that. Check us out, give us a follow, you might like it, you might enjoy it. Hi, hey Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey man, we're doing fine, just starting up. How are you man, how's it going?
I'm great, I'm having a good day so far.
Alright, thank you so much for being here. Since this is our first episode in English in the GEMA, there might be people watching that are usually accustomed to Spanish and Smash. So we're gonna start off with a little bit of that. But first of all, Joe, could you talk a bit about yourself, that the people know about you? Of course, we know about Capsule and whatnot, but maybe some people do not know. So can you elaborate a bit on your persona?
Sure, my name is Joe Capsule Flores. I grew up in Northern California, specifically San Jose, and the Milpitas area. I've been playing games all my life because my father introduced me to video games when I was very young. I got into competitive gaming in the arcade because we had a very, very strong arcade scene here. And that was kind of like my gateway into everything competitive gaming. And I started running tournaments and doing events around the early 2000s or maybe around like 99. And yeah, I've been pretty much in the competitive community as a community leader for Northern California, running events, doing tournaments, and helping out major tournaments like Northern California and sometimes even Evolution Fighting Game Series. But yeah, I just love games and I love PSO, I love Street Fighter, I love everything gaming, anything competitive.
Alright, that sounds dope, man. Okay, so I did some background checking out, researching info and whatnot for the interview, and I knew about Capsule. I was gonna ask you about it, but I didn't know it was like from back in the 99. Damn, that's a long time. I mean, even early 2000s is a lot. So can you tell me about how was the scene back then? What games were you running? What were you doing back when you were just starting with Capsule and tournament hosting and helping out in game communities?
It actually started back in '99 when I first started playing Third Strike competitively. I wanted to take things to another level for my local arcade because they didn't really have any tournaments going on. So that's when I kind of like started getting into tournaments and playing competitively. And I started learning from all the other major tournament organizers in the area, and they kind of gave me the ropes and taught me how to run a tournament and run a bracket, and the whole 9 yards. It wasn't until I want to say 2012 when I actually founded Capsule Entertainment. That was kind of when arcades were dying down and the whole home console generation was coming up as the more prominent way of playing fighting games. So we had to kind of evolve from this arcade lifestyle to playing on home consoles, and that was when I decided, oh, okay, I need to start making moves now and start doing big things and investing in a lot of equipment to do tournaments for the future. And that's pretty much when Capsule Entertainment was formed. I used to work with my old partner back then. His name was Albert Carmona, and he was the one that actually got me started with the whole transition from arcade to home console. And he had an organization called Keystone 2, and those were that consisted of a lot of Northern California's top players and best players, and that's how it all got started.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna touch briefly on some of the stuff you mentioned. Because this is some legit stuff. This is some actually pretty interesting things. Could you tell me a bit about the transition from arcade to home console? Because, well, I told you we're basically focused on Smash, but Melee being the game you have to play on CRTs, and the Switch coming next, we might see a transition from the CRT OTB model to having to invest in Switch and not GameCubes or Wii's to play Smash. So this is like a really interesting parallel. Can you elaborate on that, switching from arcades to home consoles?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when we used to play on arcades, obviously nobody had their own arcade machine in their home, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure most people had like a Super Nintendo or a PlayStation or something like that.
Yeah.
But back then, the versions that were on the home consoles were not arcade perfect. So all the tournaments and competitive play were held in the arcade. So when players wanted to hold a tournament or play in a real environment for competitive play, say for like Street Fighter or Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, anything of that sort, they'd have to go to the arcade and find a community that's holding tournaments in the arcade. But I mean, I'm pretty sure it would still be that way to this day if arcades were still around, like as much as they were back in the 90s and
Yeah.
the 80s. But since they were kind of dying down and all the newer games weren't coming out for the arcade, and they were coming out for home consoles, we were kind of forced to leave the arcade scene and start doing things on our own without having any support from local arcades. That was kind of a hard transition because it was kind of like new ground. It had never been really done before by our community outside of maybe the Evolution staff. So it was kind of weird because no one was really doing that much back then, and um, we there was no like guidebook or anything of how to go about running a tournament or building equipment of that type. So it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of community effort from other players. At first, it was a lot of people just bringing their own equipment and just making a community effort just to make something happen. But then eventually, we started to fund our own equipment and stuff like that for our community, and that's where I was able to help the community now with equipment without having to get it from other players in the community. Now we have like a community that I put my own. I mean, I'm sorry, equipment that I put my money into. From generating from other community members helping me, so that's all kind of been like a snowball effect leading up to this point, and now it's kind of like it's kind of like on it's just driving itself basically.
That's sick. I mean, well, it certainly seems like a wrong road. Like, it's like almost 18 years from now. So it's really interesting to grow. But moving on a bit from fighting games and whatnot, I would like to ask, because from what you tell me right now, I assume you would say your background mainly consists of fighting games and tournament hosting.
Yes,
Yeah.
mainly.
So how does one go from being involved in this environment of Street Fighter, of gaming, of competitive gaming, to really small compared to that community such as Phantasy Online, and specifically Phantasy Online Episode 3?
Oh man, this is actually pretty interesting because I was a huge GameCube fan, and around the time that I was playing Third Strike in the arcades, and it was kind of dying down a little bit because people didn't understand the game as much.
Yeah.
I started to find other games that were interesting to me, and I was a huge, humongous GameCube fan. I mean, a lot of my friends thought I was kind of weird because of that, and everyone had like PlayStation 2s and stuff. But I just loved Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I had a huge library of games, and something really intrigued me about the GameCube and going online with Phantasy Star Online. Since I never had a Dreamcast, it was kind of new to me. So I thought, well, hey, this looks like a cool game, and I used to play a lot of Final Fantasy 11 online.
Oh yeah.
On my PC. So I thought, hey, let me just give Phantasy Star a try, and then I picked it up, played it, and it was cool. I like RPGs and stuff. But then what really got me into it, and I started to dive really deep, was I met the competitive community within Phantasy Star Online, which was the rule battling. If you're familiar with that. I started to meet like those kind of people, and they would tell me like, yeah, you want to battle, and I was like, well, what is this battle? I see it, but I never tried it. So they gave me the whole tutorial on how to like battle and how to rule battle, and I thought that was very interesting, and I was like, yeah, this is a lot like fighting games and stuff. So I started to produce like tournaments within Phantasy Star Online for a Battle Mode 6, and a lot of people were really interested in that, and I started to talk to a lot more people, from Japan and just all over the place, Europe, about like competitive PSO play.
What is the time frame for this, for when you started arranging tournaments about the game?
Oh man, this is before Episode 3 came out.
Wow.
So yeah, this was, I don't exactly remember what year it was, because it was like after I kind of stopped playing Third Strike for a little bit and started playing PSO, and before Episode 3 came out. I'm not really sure when Episode 3 came out. I think it was like 2003 or something.
Yeah, 2003 or 4, something around this line. Yes.
So it was probably like maybe a year or two before that, or something like that.
Okay. So you were out there basically before even the game came out.
Yeah, before Episode 3 came out, I was already playing PSO competitively. I liked RPGs, but I wasn't really into like killing monsters and stuff. I thought it was fun and all, but I was a competitive player, so I didn't really dive too deep into that until I learned that you could actually battle other players online, and that's when I started to dive really, really deep.
That sounds fun. Because this is actually something literally new to me, because I don't know, I'm more of the inverse of what you like. I like grinding. I love PSO because I just enjoy getting on the lobby and then just going on the quest and grinding out all the stuff. Basically, I would go through forest non-stop if I could, but time and whatnot. So it's pretty fun to see how the different styles of playing can come about, specifically battle mode in this type. But that's Episode 1 and 2. So the card game comes out, even physical. Back then, did you have any involvement, or did you like it? Did you play it? Episode 3?
Episode 3, yeah, when Episode 3 came out, I didn't really know much about it. All I know that it was a battle game of some sort. So obviously, I'm going to be interested in it because I love PSO and I love competing. So I was like, okay, and then I heard that it was a card game, and back then I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So okay. I was like, oh, okay, I know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I know how to play card games. I know players that play Magic, and I'm pretty familiar with that kind of stuff.
The skill set translates.
Yeah, so some of that stuff was like, I was taking some of those skills over a little bit, but I didn't really know much about the game until the game came out, and I took it home and I started playing it, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I started to learn, and I was like, wow, this game is truly an amazing game. It's unfortunate because a lot of people that played Episode 1 and 2 didn't really feel so, because they just weren't used to games like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different contrast, going from an action RPG to something even more lenient, more lax than Episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it was way more competitive than, like, say, Episode 1 and 2, because the game was based around just competing.
Yeah, it was a forced one-on-one encounter, right?
Yes, exactly. So a lot of players that I remember in episode 1 and 2, they didn't like competing. They didn't like any kind of conflict between players, and that was kind of something that turned them off about episode 3. But obviously, I really love that. That was my favorite part of
Yeah.
episode 1 and 2, and I just love games like that in general. So I dove deep into episode 3. I learned absolutely everything I could from all the top players. I placed in many tournaments in the game because they had a tournament system in the game.
Back in the
I would,
day
and
when the servers were active, right?
Yeah, back when the official servers were active, there was a tournament system where you could go and then the servers would host a tournament, and you would go and enter and you would win like money and you could turn that money in, and that money would actually determine your rank uh, between how many people in the world were actually playing in tournaments and stuff.
Okay.
So I was actually really high up there, because I used to play in tournaments a lot, and I learned all the cheap tricks and all the best cards and all the best strategies.
Just like a fighting game.
Yeah, just like fighting. So I was really one of the top players in the U.S. for tournament competitive play for episode 3.
That's actually sick. So okay, still sticking to that time frame. When the game came out, when the official servers were up, when did you start detaching yourself from the community, or when did the community start dying down because the servers died down and stuff like that?
Servers died down, and
It was like circa 2007 or something, right?
yeah, the game it wasn't really online for that long. Now that I think about it, it was up for a good amount of years, but like it wasn't like a long run like most games were.
Yeah.
But once the official servers went down, I mean those were some of the darkest days of my time, because that was, I mean, to this day I'm probably gonna say, like, outside of fighting games, I just want to say outside of that genre, because I have a lot of best fighting games that I like.
Yeah.
But I really feel like episode 3 is probably up there was one of my favorite games of all time.
You know.
And I was really hurt when the servers went down. I was really, really deeply hurt. I had like no direction outside of what I was doing with fighting games. I had nothing to do at home because all I wanted to do was play episode 3, and when that went down, I was really sad. So a lot of people were telling me, hey, there's a private server, you should check it out. And when I went over there, episode 1 and 2 was working like really good. It was almost perfect.
This one shit hack was beginning and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, this one was, I first got introduced to that, and episode 1 and 2 was nearly flawless.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, I was expecting episode 3 to be the same, but when we got there, the game was extremely buggy. Nothing was functional, nothing was working, and then I started to talk to like the owners of the server and a lot of the moderators, and they would tell me a little bit more about how episode 3 is more of a server-side based game opposed to episode 1 and 2, which is more client-sided.
Oh,
So that kind of made sense. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that we needed, a lot of information that we needed from the official servers to get the private server working. But I mean, the private server just, I'm sorry, the official server is closing down so quick. A lot of people didn't really take it in that we needed to get all that information to help, get things running, and that's what kind of happened. Things just kind of died down at that.
Okay. Alright, so the official servers are gone, but then word starts to spread out about some private servers. It sounds so good and jolly for the PSO episode 1 and 2 players, but the episode 3 players seem at a stalemate. And then fast forward a couple of years, this coming from my side now, I'm just checking, Dolphin comes out, Devolution comes out, you can now go back and play episode 1 and 2. If you don't necessarily have a GameCube or broadband adapter, you can just use Weibo and the stuff model Wii, and you can go at it. But then also, when you check out the PSO groups in Facebook, in Twitter, whatnot, you find one out. It's called PSO Episode 3 Card Battlers or something like that, right? And then I
Yes.
see stuff like people telling, oh, we managed to make some modifications, we managed to fix the game up, we can play online now through Dolphin, through NetPlay. You were one of the people involved in that, right? So can you elaborate on that new rise up that happened like 1 year ago or so?
Yeah, sure. A while back, I want to say this started maybe about, oh man, this is way a long time ago. Maybe about like 5 years ago. I was helping the owners of the server fix episode 3 on the private server because for one, he didn't know how to play competitively, and he didn't play on the servers on the Sega servers, so he didn't really know how the server functions even worked. And then a lot of the people that were helping him didn't play on the official servers or play competitively at all. So like I happened to just run into them somehow on the private server one day and started talking to them about episode 3, and they were telling me, yeah, we were trying to fix it. We could use your help if you were willing to help us, because we don't really know much about competitive play or the server function. So I was like, yeah, I'll help you guys out. So I started, I joined the team, and we used to get on Skype and talk about what it was like to play on the official server. And I would tell them, well, this is how something is supposed to work, and this is how the card is supposed to be, and like this is how you obtain these cards, and blah 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 blah. So like from that, we would go in and try to modify the cards or the code within the server, and to get them working correctly based off all the information that I gave them. And it started to make some good progress, but then the owner, he found out that he needed to rewrite the server core, because a lot of functions wouldn't work unless the core of the code was completely rewritten, and that was a really daunting task. So at one point it kind of just stopped. We just stopped working on the game because we just couldn't go forward anymore. And I think that we were like maybe about 25-30%. I'm stretching it by saying 50% complete with the game at that point, but it was unplayable. So we just stopped, and it wasn't until last year or something of that sort, I think it was maybe last year, that I got contacted by the team again, and they're saying, hey, we're trying to give this a go again, and we're gonna rewrite the core and everything. You want to help us out? And I was like, yeah. It's literally been so many years. Oh man, I want to say almost 10 years, okay? And I was like, I don't even remember everything that we were doing back then. So like, I had to like really.
It was like a trip down memory lane for you.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what we were doing. Like, this is gonna be kind of hard. So then, as we started, the owner of the server started, writing the core again and getting things to work, and we started, talking more about tournaments and spectator mode, because spectator mode was like really, really broken. It didn't even work until like a year ago. So they would ask me like, okay, how did spectator mode work? And I would tell them, well, this is how it's supposed to be. When you go in, it does this, and you can talk and blah blah blah. So then they would go and find all the packets, and try to piece it back together. So eventually we got spectator mode working again on the private server, which was a huge improvement. A lot of cards got fixed because the core got rewrote, and I think we're almost finished. But it's been a long process, and I think it's been a few months since we stopped working on it, just because people are busy and the holidays came up.
Yeah.
We kind of took like a break, so as far as I know, we're gonna start working on it again. But right now it's kind of playable, but it's not perfect. So you can play on the private server. A lot of things work, a lot of things are broken, but it's better than what it was when we were first working on it, maybe about like, I don't know, I want to say like 5 years ago plus.
Okay. Just to clarify, you guys are still hosted in Shithack, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can actually go to the actual Shithack site, the forum, and talk episode 3 there, right? That's where the main development goes on, right?
Yes.
Okay. So talking about the game itself, the system, the cards. There's a difference if you play offline and online, right? Because there are some cards available in offline because they were only available when the servers were up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So some of the efforts to make it available for the people is also make those cards available. But are there any other sort of things that are new to this renewed effort of bringing PSO Episode 3 back in action?
Yeah. So if you don't really know much about Episode 3, you'll know that like. If you don't play online, then the cards are going to be the very first version, or the very first patch is on the disc.
Yeah.
And that's the very first card balance that they have. So you can play the game, but the game is extremely unbalanced, and there's a lot of really overpowered cards.
Yep.
So what they did on the official servers was have these version updates where they would upgrade the server, and the cards could be modified, and they would balance the cards to make competitive play more balanced.
Okay.
So that happened a few times. I want to say maybe about 3 or 4 times over the course of its online life. And at the end, the game was pretty balanced, and it was a lot of fun. But once the servers went down, all of that went away.
Yeah.
And the only way to play the game was offline. And when you play the game offline, all the cards are broken and unbalanced.
Like going back from the Stone Age.
Yeah. So like it was really, really unbalanced again, and the only way to play was like locally and stuff like that.
This I think a way to put it to the people is that it's like take any actual esport, like I don't know, Street Fighter 5. It's season 2. There was a new chapter just announced, but now imagine that the game was all of those expansions were gone, and you just got the vanilla from when the game came out. That's basically what happened, right?
That's exactly what it is. Imagine if there was no DLC applied to the game, no balance changes or anything. It's just like you were just playing the game vanilla, day one, all over again.
Yeah, so all of the meta was gone, right?
Yes, everything was gone. The game was really broken and not fun anymore because obviously it's really broken.
Of course. Yeah.
But and then you can play online, so that didn't help.
Okay.
And then so yeah, that was the only way to really play the game. Was just like that. But it wasn't until about a year ago when we started working on the servers again that my friend Ice, his name is Ice Theon, he actually he's a hacker, so he goes in there and he's taking apart the game, and looking in the code, digging around. He hits me up and he's like, him and my other friend. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on one second, okay?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, him and my other friend that I was working with the game on, they were telling me, yeah, like Ice was able to get inside the game, and and basically like rewrite the ISO, the files.
Yeah, the file you used to boot the games up in Dolphin.
Yeah,
and
so like he applied the patches to the cards, on the offline version.
Yeah.
And back then, I was extremely excited about that because I had a really good group of people that I played locally, and we were playing the game, vanilla, and it was fun and all, but it kind of sucked. But once I found out that he was able to go and apply the patch to the offline ISO, we were just like, wow, we cannot believe this. So that alone was really groundbreaking news, and I tried it out, and everything was working. Everything was, just like it was online.
Just like the old days.
Just like the old days. We were able to play with the card balances and everything, so that was really huge.
Cool.
And he was actually able to do other things too that not a lot of people even knew about. There was kind of like these, rumors and stuff behind the scenes, talking about, a lot of hackers talking about this kind of stuff. Okay. But, there was never ever any footage of this, any evidence of this or anything. But he was able to go in and find cards that were taken out of the game completely.
Wow.
In the beta version, in the development version, and reapply them to the game.
Damn.
And yeah, so there's a lot of cards. There has to be at least like 50 plus cards that are in the game that nobody has ever seen before.
Wow.
And he unlocked them, and we made them playable. And that's a version of the game that he's been calling PSO Episode 3 Plus.
Okay, just like the PSO Episode 1 and 3, Episode 1 and 2 Plus that came out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so not only did you guys do this patched ISO and brought back the meta from back there, like bring it from that, but you also went further than that and expanded upon the meta that existed already.
Yes, we unlocked like a lot of characters and a lot of cards that were not playable by anyone.
Yeah.
Outside of the developers, so, and maybe the beta version, but we made them accessible again, and some of them are really broken.
I imagine. Okay, so this is when the renaissance of Episode 3 kind of was taking off, per se, right? So I would ask, then Car Revo came up, right? The podcast where the development of this patch was coming up, and you guys talked about it, right?
Yes, that's kind of around the time when I wanted to get the community excited about Episode 3 again, because I know that there's a community out there, and they've slowly been dying off because just nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And like we've been doing our best just to try and bring it back, and around that time when ICE showed me that, and they were telling me they were working on servers, and I said, hey, you know what? I don't know how to code or anything. All I know how to do is play, but I do know how to stream, and I'm very, and I know a lot about that kind of stuff because I do that in fighting games. So I said, hey, let me just put together a show and show off all of this new tech that you guys are doing, and that's basically where that came from.
All right, sick. And you guys just talked about what was going on in the development, any fixes you guys were doing. This is when Spectator wasn't working per se. I remember you guys announced it in one of the episodes.
Yeah, when we first started working on the game again, Spectator wasn't working. We were just trying to get more cards to work that weren't working previously, and then one day, the owner of the server was like, "Hey, I think we can get Spectator working again. I'm looking in the code, and I think it's possible." But he didn't really know much about it since nobody played online except for me.
Yeah.
So I had to go, and he was like, so how did it work? Like, how did the whole process of you going into the spectator mode work? When you got in there, what was it like? What was the transition? All that stuff. So I had to pretty much go in there and tell them, hey, like, the step-by-step procedure of like what would happen when you wanted to spectate a match.
Okay.
So that was really important information for the owner, so that way he could go and find all the right packets and put them all together, and and put together how spectator mode was supposed to work, like if it was on the official server.
Okay. So it's basically now up and working. There's not a finished version per se, but you guys have a stable build, right? You can play in it. There might be some issues, but you can play in it, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of bugs, but for the most part, it is working, and you can spectate matches.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay, so now let's switch from online to offline in a different manner. You mentioned that you guys managed to bring back cards that weren't specifically existent in the game per se, but the game not only existed in the digital version, they actually came out with the cards, right? Sega team and Phantasy Star team actually made cards from the actual game, and you could play in real life with your friends. No?
Yes, so there's actually physical cards, only available in Japan, by the way.
Yeah.
That were a part of their marketing or promotion of the game, that were available in certain items that you bought related to PSO Episode 3.
Okay.
And I didn't know this back then at all because obviously I don't live in Japan. I don't know any Japanese or anything. So like I found this out later around the time that I actually bought the soundtrack a long time ago, really long time ago.
Wow.
And it came with 5 cards.
Okay.
It came with a card pack, 5 cards. And back then I didn't know that there was there's a whole collection. I just thought like it was the same 5 cards. Everyone got the same 5 cards.
Okay.
So I was just like, oh, man, this is cool, And then I asked Sega, I sent them an email, I said, hey, I got these cards. Is there really a real game? And they're like, no, it's just for promotion. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. And it's kind of a bummer too at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I held on to the soundtrack. I have it here. It's worth like so much money now for some reason.
Yeah.
But I had the cards and I put them away. And then I started looking around online. Once I started getting back into Episode 3 like a year ago, I started just looking at random stuff, Episode 3 stuff, and more cards started showing up that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, how are people getting these cards? So I started like digging more through the internet, Googling stuff and just searching, and I found out that there was a set of 21 cards that Sega released.
Okay.
And the way to obtain them was all different ways. One way was getting the game in Japan, so like if you bought the GameCube game, you would get a pack.
Yeah.
And it would have a pack of 5 random cards out of those 21 cards.
Yeah.
That was one way, and another way was getting the soundtrack, which I had, which gave you another pack of 5 random cards. Another one was if you had the GameCube memory card that had the Episode 3 picture on it. I don't know, it's like the Hori GameCube Episode 3 memory card.
Yeah.
That came with 5 cards,
Yeah.
and then if you got the keyboard, the Sammy keyboard, that came with 10 cards, and you were guaranteed a rare card.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research, and I found all that stuff, and I was like, oh man, I love Episode 3. It's probably one of my favorite games of all time. I need these cards in my life. I need them. I must have them.
Yeah.
And
you
but yeah,
did.
And I did.
Yeah.
It was so hard.
Yeah.
I
So
I was I tell this every day to everyone who asks me about the cards. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, finding these cards, and probably the most expensive thing I've ever had to do too.
okay, so okay, actually, if you're watching at the stream screen, you could see that we have your cards. Actually, the image of them, I took it from the Facebook group.
Okay, give me
So
one
yeah,
second.
you actually went above and beyond because you actually have a case for them. I remember you mentioned that, and you have them, like safely guarded for posterity for all the ages. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I didn't actually made. I was gonna make it like a really nice one, but
Yeah.
it was so expensive. I had to just kind of wait.
and it was already expensive gathering all the cards, right?
It was already super crazy
So
expensive.
just giving estimates, you don't have to tell any precise. How much time did it take you on a scale of 1 to 10? How much effort, and maybe if you could tell us like how much money?
Okay. How much time? Oh man, I spent like literally every day looking for about. Oh man, I want to say about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And that was literally every day, every day. Um, anytime I had time, at night, late at night or something. How much money? I honestly, I don't even remember. It's crazy because
I
like,
assume, yeah.
you had to, in order to, people don't have these cards in America, so you had to import them from Japan.
Yeah.
So, shipping from Japan was on each piece and each package was $20 for
Oh
me.
snap.
Just shipping, okay?
Yeah.
And if like sometimes the cards or like a pack of like 5 cards would be like $30 or something. So like, I mean, I had to buy games like brand new, unopened, which are going for like $29.99,
Huh?
and then plus the shipping. So I'd buy a game for like $50 and get 5 random cards.
Yeah.
And then, I would hope that I didn't have any duplicates in there, just something crazy like that,
Okay.
So I'd have to do that like multiple times in order to get cards, as much cards as possible. And then I used to have the keyboard a long time ago, but it got like really damaged or broken or something like that.
Yeah.
So like I was like, well, I might as well just. I really loved it, so I was like, I might as well just buy the keyboard and get the 10 cards from there. And I got the cards, I got the keyboard.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to find people selling the card packs individually, which is now that I'm thinking about it is so rare because you cannot find people finding card packs individually anymore. I was lucky though, and on top of that, I was lucky to have a friend in Japan gather all of those auctions that I won for the cards and put them into one packet, so I only had to pay for shipping one time.
Okay,
So-
that was a huge help, I assume.
Huge help. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, I don't know what I would have done without her help, but yeah, it's really expensive. I don't wish it upon anyone. It's really brutal. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it's probably the worst thing I've ever had to do in my entire life.
But at the same time, it might have been the best because I mean, if you look at them, I mean, I'm just looking at the image. You might probably be able to turn around and look at it by yourself in real life. I mean, that's sick, man. Coming from
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's a huge accomplishment for me. I didn't even think I was ever going to do it, ever, and I did it. I got all the cards. I want to protect them, so I put them in the cases and stuff. But yeah, I have them here. They're awesome, and it's probably one of my lifetime goals I have achieved.
Damn, man. I mean, coming from one diehard PSO. I mean, basically from all the stories you just gave me, I may not be that diehard, but coming from a good PSO fan to another, I respect you managed to get it, and congratulations on making it, man.
Thank you. I didn't think it was possible, but I did.
All right, so jeez, man, I'm still dumbfounded. But okay, let's touch on some small things before we start to wrap this up. I remember in one of the comments in the group, sometime you mentioned when you were going to Evo, and I jokingly stated that when was there gonna be a PSO episode 3 tournament in Evo? Yeah. So have you seen anything of the game ever in the Evolution environment?
No, I have not. I just let everyone know that I was going to Evo.
Yeah.
And that there wasn't gonna be a show Card Revo show. That's all. That's all it really was. Was hey guys, I'm not going to be doing a show this week because I'm going to Evo,
Yeah.
and
All
that's
right.
pretty much it. But I
Well,
saw that joke, hey, episode 3 at
yeah,
Evo,
yeah,
and I mean, now that I think about it, it's totally possible. We can do it. It's just, is the community big enough to do it? That's the
yeah,
only thing.
yeah. I mean, just being able to play with someone there, I mean, would be something cool. But hey, I mean, there was a Player's Choice nomination this year in Evo, right? Who knows? Maybe next year, we can play it up there. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the future of episode 3. So you mentioned that you guys, the team working on making the server, be in shape, are taking a break from the holidays and all that stuff. So can we expect something in the future in the works, or like, I don't know, just the game itself, the server build, or card revo, or anything in general?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I actually got in contact with them like right before Christmas, and I was asking them, hey, what's going on? It's just because they're my good friends,
Yeah.
So I hit them up and I asked them how they're doing. I send them like gifts and stuff. So like, I asked them, what's going on? Are we gonna continue? And they're just like, yeah, we've just been busy with work and holidays are coming up, so it's really hard. So I mean, I was really busy too myself, so
Yeah.
I understood completely. It's really tough to do all of this stuff for free for the community when you're not getting paid to do it. You're just doing it just because you love it.
Of course.
So I mean, we do have plans to continue again. I haven't contacted them since before Christmas, so it's been a little while, but it's something that is going to happen. We just gotta find the time to click up together again and get the ball rolling again.
All right, sounds good. So we can expect some more stuff in 2017 for
Yeah.
episode 3. Yeah.
The team, the owner of the server, everybody really wants to complete the game, so that way anybody that's interested in playing the game online will get the whole experience as it was on the server, as much as possible. Some things might be impossible to do or really tough, but we're just trying to, for the most part, we're trying to get the game working at its core.
Yeah.
All the cards working, the way that it should be, and spectator mode obviously working. So that's the goal right now. Get all the cards working, and got spectator working. So modes like tournament mode might not ever see a light of day ever again.
Yeah.
And some of those other things, like other things other than spectator mode in the core of the game working, you might not ever see. But the thing is, we can go, and now that we have access to ripping the game open and rewriting code and changing stuff, we could actually make cards, or we could actually balance the cards that weren't even in the game, like the beta cards. We could balance them and make them playable. We could actually make them accessible now. You can actually obtain them through card packs and stuff like that, so that we could actually send you cards that were no way obtainable before, which is kind of cool. A lot of the E-rank cards that were like promo cards that you got from like having certain game file saves on your memory card. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
We could actually add those into card packs and allow people to obtain them without even having to save on their memory card and stuff.
Alright, I even remember sometime when checking out the episode 3 Shit Hack forums that you guys even managed to make some kind of custom quest build, to be able to quest.
Yeah, that's all possible too. We could make our own quests and stuff, but that obviously is gonna come extremely later.
Yeah, because that's a different
gonna be
context from the quest from episode 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, it's a totally different ball game when you're coming from episode 1 and 2. It's totally different.
Yeah.
But that's one of the last things that they're gonna be working on.
Okay.
Like me, I don't directly do all that stuff. So
you're just like the guy that provides a platform for them to share it, right?
Yeah, I'm just there to help them, with information that they don't have.
Okay, sounds good enough. Okay, we're close to wrapping this up, Joe. So I just wanna do some brief comments on some stuff and on something, sorry, and then we can go wrapping it up. First of all, since I told you we are a main Smash focused group, well, there's some elements that come from that come to Smash, but people don't know that come from the PSO background. The first one I would say is the keyboard controller, which is like a meme in the Smash community, like, oh, you play with keyboard controller or something like that. But people don't know where it comes from, and it comes, like you said, from Phantasy Online, and you actually could get cards from it, you know?
Yes, if you get the Sammy version, you can.
Yeah. So there's that for people who didn't know that. And secondly, the patched ISO, from episode 3 is something similar to a patched version of Melee that exists. I don't know if you heard of the 20XX pack.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So it's like the same. It helps, you know, like, I don't know. It just skips the soul screen. It provides alternate skins to the players. It provides different music and stuff like that. So I think they have that similarity there too, especially coming from what we discussed earlier, from going to arcades to home consoles, and you know, the switch from literally Melee in CRTs to the Nintendo Switch in HD. So yeah, that's a fun little callback. Tell me about Smash. What do you know about Smash? What do you like about Smash? I mean, do you follow it? Norco has a lot of the players there, so I assume you must know something.
Yeah, well, I used to play Smash Melee. I used to play Smash on N64 a long time ago.
Okay.
With all my friends and stuff. I wasn't really too competitive though. I just played for fun.
Yeah.
Same thing for Melee. I just played for fun. I really loved it.
Yeah.
And then when Brawl came out, I was really busy with work and founding Capsule Entertainment and everything. So that, you know, I didn't really get into Brawl. But as soon as Wii U version came out, I had already been established, you know, within the fighting game community and, you know, everything like that. And I thought, like, you know, this game doesn't require me to have a whole bunch of CRT TVs.
Yeah.
You know, I already have like a whole bunch of HD monitors, so like it would be really easy for me to get into Smash on Wii U.
Okay.
Because the monitors are already there. All I gotta do is just get the game in the Wii U, and I'll be perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when the game came out, there wasn't really any tournaments in NorCal. I was pretty much the only one hosting bigger tournaments, large-scale tournaments, and weekly tournaments for Smash on Wii U. And that's how pretty much I got into the Smash community. I didn't know anything about competitive play, about Smash or anything. So when I went in there, you know, I just had like some of the people that played like Street Fighter, some of them played Smash. They had to give me like the rundown. Okay, this is what the rules are like, you know what I mean? This is how you go. It's completely different from like any other fighting game.
Yeah.
So like that was kind of like really stressful to me, because I had a really hard time, like, you know, memorizing all of the different Smash rules, because there's just so many compared to like Street Fighter and any other fighting game.
Yeah.
But you know, I had help, and they helped me out, and you know, those tournaments were getting really huge over here. In the beginning, it was only like 8 people, and then the next week after that, it got to like 12, and then we got 16, and then it was like 20, and then as the weeks kept going, every week just kept getting better and better. And I was like, dude, this is crazy, because I haven't seen any players like this in a long time come out to play in a tournament. And it eventually reached up to like 80 people for a weekly tournament.
Wow.
And that was like right before I left to go work for an arcade company, and I had to stop running Smash tournaments. But yeah, that was like the peak of everything. I was actually hosting some of the biggest Smash tournaments in Northern California, and when nobody else was, and I helped them actually produce like a really good like a system for themselves, and a lot of events for themselves now. So they're pretty much on their own now. They do things on their own. They don't really need me anymore, so I'm kind of done with Smash. But yeah, I really helped out the community for Smash.
All right, that sounds good. So all right, I think we're gonna be ending soon now. First of all, I think this has been a pretty interesting, descriptive, and informative talk about not only PSO, but actually a lot of different teams regarding that and finding games in Smash and whatnot. But say, if I was a person that is watching this podcast and says, hey, this is dope, I want to check out this card game episode 3, or maybe just Phantasy in general, but you know, coming from your fort, where should one go in Facebook, in Twitter, in websites? Where can one congregate with people from the community?
Well, if you have Facebook, you could always look up the Facebook group that we have on there. It has a lot of information on the server and the PSO episode 3 plus build. It's shoot, I haven't been on it in a while. PSO episode 3 card battlers.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the group that I created long ago, a really long time ago, honestly. But I kind of revived it once we started working on the server and the PSO Episode 3 Plus build again. So that
Alright.
kind of took off. So people could look on there. That's a really good source for Episode 3 information.
Yeah.
And then for server specific stuff, you could go to the ShitHack server
Yep.
web page, and they'll talk about like in detail server stuff there. And there's a little bit of stuff on PSO World too, but not so much because we can't really talk about too much on that website.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, that's it for the most part.
Alright, so yeah, so you can check the Facebook group or the ShitHack forum. And if you also want to check out the first 2 episodes, episode 1 and 2, or the RPG in general, where you can look it up, I think there's a bunch of PSO sites and Phantasy Star sites in general, so there's lots to get from it. So, okay, not only that, if I also was interested in Capsule Entertainment, or I was an Oracle person watching this, where could I go, or what could I expect from Capsule Entertainment, and what can I do to enjoy myself there? What's up?
Okay. Well, you could go to on Facebook as well, and I have a group on there called Capsule Entertainment. There's also a business page for Capsule Entertainment. It's probably best that you join the group Capsule Entertainment, because that's where we do all the talking and all the updates and stuff of what we're doing. Where I do all my work these days is at a gaming lounge called the Sharkade,
Okay.
and that's located in San Jose, California. And they have a group too. It's called the Sharkade.
Okay.
And yeah, we do weekly tournaments there, and we're gonna start live streaming again from that venue. And there's a lot of footage on YouTube. You could go look me up on YouTube at if you look up CPS_IV, my channel should come up.
Yeah. We're also being hosted on your Twitch channel, CSPIV, without the underscore. So what can we expect in that stream? What do you guys stream regularly, or what can you watch there?
Well, we used to stream a lot when we had internet access.
Yeah.
So it would when we do start streaming again, probably next month, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of Street Fighter, a lot of give me 1 second. A lot of Street Fighter, a lot of Tekken, a lot of pretty much every fighting game. The only thing that we don't do anymore is Smash, because we don't have the equipment for Smash anymore.
Yeah.
So we can't do tournaments for Smash anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, Tekken, and when Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite comes out, we're going to be doing a lot of that. A lot of Injustice 2. We're trying to get into Killer Instinct again, but there's going to be a lot of that.
Okay, so fighting game action, and hopefully maybe some Card River in the future?
Yeah, once we start working on episode 3 again, we'll start up Card Reva weekly again as well.
Okay, and if one wants to be up to date on when does that happen, one can check the Facebook group, right?
Yeah, so just check the Facebook group on probably the card battlers group. That's where probably we're gonna be talking more about that, and then you'll know when we go live, and I'm actually gonna plan a tournament online once we get everything finished. But since we're not even nowhere close to finished, it's not gonna happen anytime soon. So.
Okay, all right. Well, I think about that sums it up, Joe. I really appreciate you for coming on the show and for taking the time to talk with me about all this stuff. I hope people enjoy this, either the live stream or the recording that will be on YouTube. Are there any last shout-outs, mentions, or stuff you want to plug before we wrap this up finally?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to, in regards to episode 3 Card Revolution, I want to give a shout out to the ShitHack team. Ice, my very good friend who did all the work on PSO episode 3 plus. He's been a huge help. Everything that, I've wanted out of the game, he's actually been able to do for me, and, we've become really good friends. Huge shout out to the Northern California fighting game community. They are my family, they are my friends, and pretty much shout out to the whole fighting game community and just the gaming community in general. I love you guys, and I continue to do as much as I can for the competitive scene.
Alright, that's dope, man. And I think people appreciate it and will appreciate it and will continue to do so for a long time. Once again, I want to pay my respects. I think you having that collection is sick. I love everything you guys been doing for episode 3. I really appreciate you guys bringing that back. I might get on it now that I have some free time, so expect me in that tournament, I hope.
Alright, that sounds great.
Alright, man. Well, Joe, thank you so much for being again, and we'll see you next time, hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. See you next time, guys.
Alright, thanks, guys. Thanks, man. Later. I'm gonna call.
Later.
I'm gonna set the call now.
Alright, bye.
Alright, peace. There you have it, folks. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm gonna switch to Spanish for the ending, so you guys can wait now. Ok, muchas gracias, banda. Esta fue la llamada con Joe de Capsule para hablar de Phantasy Star. Estuvo pesado, creo que fue muy informativo. No solo vimos cosas de Phantasy Star Episode 1 y 2, también vimos cosas de Episode 3 y también vimos cosas de Smash. Vimos cosas de la comunidad de Norca. Ya saben que en Smash Norca está muy pesado. Y aparte de eso, o sea, ver cómo está movida, ¿no? Sobre todo eso de Smash Poker creo que fue muy informativo para ver de dónde origina la comunidad de Smash Poker Norca. Pero en fin, hablamos de muchas cosas, fue muy intrigante, fue muy informativo. Espero que les haya gustado, a mí me gustó bastante poder hablar con Joe. Y le agradezco a Joe, obviamente. Muchas gracias a todos. No olviden que dejemos de crema, así realmente en Twitter. Ya saben, OG Fantasy todos los miércoles y próximamente vamos a tener más episodios por allá. A lo mejor el lunes, martes, jueves, quién sabe, pero el miércoles siempre va a ser la constante de Smash para ustedes. Así que no se lo pierdan. Muchas gracias por sintonizar, espero en YouTube también. Y pues bueno, creo que ha sido todo por hoy. También esperen cosas en inglés próximamente más. Estamos creciendo, estamos abarcando más ámbitos, más juegos, más idiomas, más todo para ustedes, para que puedan disfrutar los juegos en general y también pues simplemente disfrutar con la comunidad que conocen, la gente que conocen a través de la comunidad. Muchas gracias, gente, por ver. Nos vemos en la próxima. Entonces, un abrazo. Peace.